So here we have the brand new Dunescape by Armaf, and I think this is one of the coolest looking bottles. It has real sand in the cap. Like when I discovered this in Dubai fairly recently, I really was impressed by the entire presentation of it. This is literally a brand new drop. I think they have about 4 brand new drops. I know I recently covered Bling, and Bling is like this musky, fruity type of a scent. Apparently it's done so well. But now we have the brand new Dunescape. And the thing with this fragrance is that this is a citrus explosion. This is actually incredibly versatile, super easy to wear. And as soon as I smelled it, I said, I need to add this one to my collection. So of course, I've been smelling this one and playing around with it for, I don't know, the better part of a month. And at the end of the day, this is a very clean, fresh, citrus-driven, versatile fragrance. Perfectly unisex in my opinion, although I can see the gentlemen really enjoying this one. And this one opens up with mandarin orange and bergamot, I think a bit of neroli. There's like this crisp green apple note in the fragrance as well. And I think one thing that a lot of people appreciate is being able to convey or communicate the smell of a perfume in layman's terms. And so for me, as soon as I smelled this, I knew it had like this sharp, gingery, juniper-like gin and tonic citrus accord that reminded me a lot of fragrances like Arakis by Spirit of Kings, Bulgari Tiger, Afternoon Swim by Louis Vuitton. And I would say this one is very much in the vein of Afternoon Swim by LV. So if you have any experience with that fragrance, you pretty much know what to expect with this one. But it also has this mass appealing undercurrent to it as well. I know there's been a lot of apple and vanilla fragrances on the market too. Greenly by Parfum de Marly being one of them. Y by Yves Saint Laurent being another one. So in many ways, this is kind of a hybrid of those bright, sharp, gingery, citrusy fragrances, but also combining them with those other like velvety, apple-driven tonka bean scents, which I think ultimately just conveys a sense of mass appeal with this fragrance, makes it super versatile, super easy to wear. I suspect a lot of people will probably want to prioritize wearing this one in the hotter months of the year just because it is so heavy-handed on the citrus. For me personally, this is a great spirit lifter and pick-me-up. So this is the type of perfume that I would wear any season, any occasion. I think the citrus is refined enough that you can wear it dressed up, but I think it's also bright and effervescent enough that if you're on the go and you want a more casual olfactory experience, I think this would fit the bill for that quite nicely as well. Now, I think there's something about citrus-based fragrances that make a lot of people prefer to wear them in the hotter months of the year. And of course, if you enjoy Afternoon Swim, if you enjoy Meteor, if you enjoy Imagination, not to suggest that this smells like the 2 latter fragrances, it doesn't, but if you like those types of DNAs and you have experience wearing them in the hotter months of the year and you know how energizing they can be, I think you're going to achieve something quite similar with the brand new Dunescape. So before I shot this review, I went on the official website, kind of hard to find online, but I went on the official website and I noticed that it was going for $55. Now, I think here and there, this was available on the TikTok shop. So if you're interested in picking it up, there are avenues through which you can get it. And I would highly encourage you get it, especially if you're in the market for something very fresh, very citrusy, which by the way, it's interesting because when I initially saw this bottle along with, I think it's called Checkmate, but it looks like a chess piece. It was a men's and a women's counterpart in Dubai. When I saw this fragrance, I thought to myself, Dunescape, it has real sand in the cap. So it's kind of like an hourglass meets a snow globe. It's pretty cool. My initial impression was, oh, okay, so this is gonna be like a dry amber type of a fragrance. I don't know why in my mind I went to fragrances like L'air du Desert Marocain by Tower Perfumes. I just thought it was going to be something very dark and arid and dry and ambery and non-humid. And then smelling it, it's like, yeah, it kind of makes sense, right? Like if you live in a hotter climate, you want something very bright, very lively, very vivacious and effervescent. And I think all of the citrus in this composition really encapsulate that vibe quite nicely. So I'm going to be honest with you. It's a very bright, mass appealing, compliment getting, refreshing, super easy to wear DNA that I think the gentlemen are really going to enjoy. And I have been enjoying this one very much as well. And of course, I think Armaf always continues to deliver. I have fallen in love with Malika, which is a recent release. I've been wearing Club de Nuit Intense for Men for a very long time. And then, of course, as other Creed alternatives, I've also been enjoying Milestone, which is their take on Millésime Imperial. I've been enjoying Sillage, which is their take, I believe, on Silver Mountain Water. It's housed in a silver-looking bottle. And now having Dunescape, we kind of have that YSOY meets Afternoon Swim by LV DNA hybrid that I think a lot of gentlemen are really going to enjoy. And I think another selling point to this fragrance is if you like the citrus, but you also want something with like this modern gentlemanly dry down, I think this would be perfect for that. I think a lot of citrus-driven compositions work very well for those bearing an active lifestyle, right? So in other words, if you like going to the gym, if you're into, I don't know, hiking, mountain climbing, I'm just throwing stuff out there, rock climbing, I think citrus fragrances on their own do very well in terms of conveying a sprightly attitude. I think this one with that creamy sort of a tonka bean, slightly vanillic base, I think this one is the type of scent where it's like, you know what, I'm going to get the citrus in the first hour, but then it's going to dry down to something gentlemanly, something modern, something contemporary, something that you can wear to the office. But going back to what I said before, I think it possesses enough citrus so that this can be worn in a dressed up scenario as well. So you can afford to wear this one to, I don't know, a fancy occasion, a wedding, a party that you're celebrating, maybe in more of a formal setting with your friends or loved ones or whatever the case may be. And so I think this one is an absolutely perfect fragrance for the gentleman. And I think it's one that you ought to add to your list. And, you know, personally, I'm getting a bit, I wouldn't say displeased, but I'm getting a little bit disenchanted by the onslaught of imagination dupes that are coming out. And I feel like every brand has to have an imagination alternative. And there's so many great ones on the market, right? It's kind of hard to choose, but that was never my favorite LV DNA, as glazed as it's been, as much as people have been loving it and everybody seems to be talking about it. I totally get it. But at the same time, I personally have enjoyed the Afternoon Swims and the Meteors. And then, believe it or not, as of late, I've also really been enjoying Lovers by LV, which is kind of in that Santal 33 DNA, but not really. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm really glad that Armaf has brought us something a bit new, something that is more of a hybrid as opposed to a direct inspiration of something. I think this one is going to have the mass appeal. The gentlemen are going to love it. I wore this one the day before yesterday. I got a couple of compliments. But of course, with regard to compliments, and I say this all the time, it has a lot to do with how you carry yourself, whether you're more introverted, more gregarious, whether you're quite social. If you keep to yourself, you know, that could possibly hinder the amount of compliments that you receive. Do you have an amicable personality? Are you always grumpy? You know, these are things that you have to take into consideration when thinking about what is my level of approachability, and could I possibly foresee somebody complimenting me when I wear a fragrance? If you couldn't already tell, I am in Los Angeles right now. I am doing some business, and I've been traveling a lot as of late. I was just in Dubai. I'm here in LA. I'm going back to New York. I might be going to Miami. I'm going to be coming back to LA, maybe back to Miami in January for Cosmoprof. So, you know, it's been a bit crazy, but as I mentioned in yesterday's video, I want to continue to produce these videos for you because whether I have a bunch of shelves of fragrances behind me or I don't, at the end of the day, I think it's the information in the video that really matters the most to the viewers at home. So I want to make sure that I bring you my expertise, that I bring you my experience, as it were, so that you can still, you know, kind of absorb some fragrance related content despite the setting. And ultimately, I just want to say, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching this video. A very heavy citrus fragrance in the brand new Dunescape by Armaf. This is a Beautiful new release for the gentleman. I think the cap itself, by the way, it's not super heavy, but I really love what it's doing here. The mold in the bottle, you actually see the sand dunes inside the base of the bottle. There's Armaf engraved in the atomizer. The distribution is not pressurized, but it's quite wide on the atomizer. And the citrus is just so bright and so lively and so easy to love. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you took something of value from today's episode. And of course, if you did, please do consider supporting the channel by clicking subscribe, hitting the bell, and giving this video a thumbs up for the algorithm. It would really, really mean a lot to me. Thank you for spending your time with me. I hope everybody here is having a beautiful day. Happy Friday to everybody out there, if indeed you're watching this video on the date that I'm publishing it on. And with that being said, I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you tomorrow with a brand new episode. Bye.